Welcome to Church 3.0, presented by Apollos, a podcast where we explore the nuances of modern Christian culture and the challenges of cultivating community while maintaining impact and relevance in the church. Join Tyler Vance, COO of Apollos, as he talks to church leaders from around the world to gain a deeper understanding of the Christian faith in a modern context. Push boundaries, change lives, create a more hopeful future.
Hey, welcome today. I have a super special guest with us, Kacie Frazier. Kacie is the Director of Partnerships for a company called Ministry Brands. But today our conversation really is about all things church. If you didn't know Kacie, I'll give you a little history from her. She came from increasing generosity for children in care and need through St. Jude's. She actually has worked in the beginning stages of a giving platform for churches, and now in her role deals with CHMSs and all things church related. Kacie, you've also been a longtime friend.
We
We've
go
got
way back.
many memories and stories together.
We don't have to talk about the stories. Maybe the memories.
Everything
High on
will
the
be
memories, low on the
PG.
stories. Okay. All right.
Everything our kids will be able to watch when we're older.
That's a good barometer.
Yeah.
Can my kids listen back later?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
So we'll keep it today. Thank you for joining us
Yeah.
today. This is Apollos.
Yes.
And so welcome to the time where we just get to hang out with friends.
That's
and
perfect.
talk.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. First off, one of the things that you shared as we were just kind of talking and catching up was a recent church experience you had that was amazing.
Yeah.
And I love to hear church experiences that are amazing.
Can I tell you about a slightly less amazing one that led to the amazing one?
Yes.
Sometimes like learning what not to do helps you realize when something goes really well.
Yes.
You go, man, that was really good. So we'll protect the names, right? No need to
Sure.
say who they were trying really hard, but they kind of missed the mark. So when I did have a great experience, it was that much more impactful.
Yes.
So I had a pretty big life transition, and my daughters and I were kind of looking for a new church. So we went to a couple that I knew either I had relationships with or I knew our values were kind of aligned. Went to one, it was great, just wasn't quite right. So maybe we went 3-4 times.
Yeah.
And then we eventually found where our home is now, which is the good part. We'll get to that. But
Okay.
probably 6 to 9 months had gone by where we had not attended the one that we visited,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah.
we had very little interaction. I get a random call one day in the middle of the day on my cell phone. Anything that is an unknown with my local area code, I always assume that a kid's injured at school, right? So
Wow, that's a weird assumption.
well, I've got a gymnast and then
Sure.
a very, very rambunctious kid who
Yeah.
spends a lot of time in the nurse's office. So I answer those calls,
Yeah.
assuming it's bad news. Or like, I just assume I need to stop everything I'm doing and go to the nurse's office and get one of my kids. But I answered the call. It's a true story,
How to get Kacie to pick up the phone.
right?
Ask your phone number.
That's pretty much. So I answered the phone. It was a super nice, I assume probably an intern that did not introduce himself, didn't say what church he was calling from, just went straight into like, hey, I know that you've got a kid that's about to be going into our next gen class. Want to make sure you guys are signed up for our next gen Sunday. Like, I mean, the whole spiel. And man, he was super passionate, but I was kind of like, okay, whoa. I am so sorry. Let's back it up.
Yeah.
Who are you? Where are we calling from? And then he finally said the church's name, introduced himself, and I was like, oh gosh, we went there like 3 times and it's been almost a year since then. Wow. Okay. So
Wow.
what I do for a living
Yeah.
and all of my years in church, I was like, man, he got an exported list from the CHMS of kids between X and X age. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, here, call these parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was no filter of, hey, let's check that they're still going, that they have attended maybe at least once in the past month or so. Are they giving to this church? Is the parent anything, like any signs of human life that would say this person attends our church, right? And I mean, he was very sweet, and I just said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, thanks for calling. We actually attend, a different church, but thank you so much, and like, have a great day." And I hung up, and I was like, "Man, how many other people are they just going down this call list, right?"
Wow.
So it was just very impersonal,
Sure.
to say the least.
Yes.
I mean, I hung up and went, they have no idea who I am or who I'm not. You know what I mean? Like they don't know that this kid that they were calling to make sure that she was involved in this thing hasn't been there in almost a year, right? So that kind of just like bookmarked in my brain of,
Probably the norm, though.
yeah, right? So fast forward, I am attending the church that we attend now, and every single touch point is so personal. It is so connected to our recent activity, the groups that we're involved in, the causes that we are giving to, the age appropriateness. Their names are spelled correctly. My older daughter, it's brutal.
Yeah.
I admit it. She has 2 first names that are hyphenated.
Yeah.
We don't call her that, but that is her appropriate name, and it's always spelled correctly, which is very rare.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of those things, I go, man, you guys are nailing it. Every single time I get a text or a phone call or an email, it's timely. It makes sense to when we were most recently there, what we said yes or no to, what
Yeah.
we said, hey, we'd like to know more about that. The groups that we're involved in,
Man.
none of it feels, gosh, you have no idea who we are, or you only pop up when you need something. So the intentionality
Yeah.
of not just knowing us, but then how they engage with us, every time has been right, but that's not by accident. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yes. So, I love that story. I hate that story, but I love it at the same time.
Right.
Because, I mean, how many of us in the church space are striving to make that the experience of everyone,
Sure.
right? What what I would say, my phrase I use all the time is like, we want to take unknown people and make them known,
Right.
right? As a pastor, I couldn't pastor unknown people.
Right.
I could pastor known people,
Sure.
right?
And that day I felt I'm always going to be just more and more unknown. I clearly wasn't known enough the few times that I did come to be known now. I'm just as much unknown now as I was when
Yeah.
I came those few times. What a missed opportunity. And I don't want to over spiritualize it, but I thought, man, I grew up in the church. I've got a great support system.
Yeah.
Me and Jesus are good. You know, inside or outside of an actual church, like we're cool. But
Yeah.
what if it wasn't me that phone call was made to? What if it was to, you know, a single mom at the end of her rope that was looking for a reason to go, see, I told you.
Yeah.
I told you I don't
They
belong
don't
there.
care.
I told you don't care. I told you you don't know who we are. I told you don't care about my kids. I told you don't care about, and not just you don't, but Jesus doesn't and God doesn't. What if that was the thing that, you know, and
Yeah.
I don't want to go to extremes, but that's true.
That's
So
absolutely
thank
true.
goodness it was me, but I think we're probably making that mistake a lot more than we realize.
Yeah. So, as we talk, that is a direct correlation with church management,
Yeah, 100%.
right? How have you seen it used really well? Like, I mean, how did that experience happen so well for you? You
Yeah.
had to decode
Right.
behind the scenes, like what was going on.
Well, I'm going to use a couple words that are super nerdy, which are data hygiene.
Okay.
So
That's not super nerdy.
it's a little nerdy, but like connecting with humans and their engagement, you're never going to, because that day told me that their data
Mm,
is unhygienic. They just have a bunch of names dumped into their CHMS, but no, we're not filtering that. We're not keeping it up to date. We're not keeping that data clean.
yeah.
So when we do export this list and give it to an intern, it's bad data. Therefore, we're going to have bad engagement.
Sure.
So how is it used well? Is it clean data? But
Yeah.
then any type of an intentional filtering of who do I want to call? All right, so what am I looking for? Have they attended in the past X amount of time? Are they within these age groups? What is their giving? And I want to make it all about money, but that tells us a big story about how connected someone is or is not.
Yeah.
So what are you doing with that data? Or is it just a dumping ground of names and phone numbers and emails that have unsubscribed? So they're not getting your emails anyway. My favorite, dear first name, right? Like when,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
where
Yeah. Yeah.
you have to, it's not just a dumping ground of names and phone numbers.
But it's interesting. I'm going to press in a little bit. The miss that you talk about was 9 months after you
Yeah, hadn't
were
been there for
there.
a minute.
And yeah, that's certainly a miss.
It could have been an opportunity.
It could have been an opportunity, but wasn't the miss 9 months before
Right.
when you had visited 3 times?
hmm
You had stopped visiting,
That's right.
and shouldn't they have had a radar
Something.
then?
Yes. which is how back to, their miss, but also the intentionality of when we're getting it right. Um,
Yeah.
any tiny change in human behavior, I feel like we should be tracking, and it's kind of weird, like not
No,
spying on people, but we're keeping good data because all of those data points tell a story.
sure.
Did my attendance all of a sudden have I consistently been coming every week or every other week or at least, 3 out of 4 weeks a month, and then all of a sudden I missed, say, 3 in a row. Something should trigger to someone, "Hey,
Mm,
something happened in Casey's life."
mm,
Same thing with my giving. Have I
yeah,
increased? I mean, this could be good data points too, not just declines, but
yeah,
did I increase from a one-time to a recurring? Did I increase by 5%, 10%? What are maybe some benchmarks to show
sure.
a change, to call for celebration, call for check-in, call for any type of a pastoral moment to say, "Hey, what's going on in your life?" Not,
Anything.
"Hey, I noticed that your giving changed." I don't have to say that, but I can still use that giving change to just pick up the phone. "Hey, man, what's going on in your life? I haven't checked in with you guys. What's going on? Tell me about your family." You're going to divulge that information just by me having a conversation with you. The data change was just the trigger to pick up the phone.
Sure. And giving, and it's okay for you to focus on giving because uh, we haven't had many digital data points as churches
Mhm.
historically other than giving,
Right.
right? Because most churches don't track attendance. As an adult, you're probably not checking in
Right.
on the
Exactly.
weekend, right? If you don't have kids, you're not checking your kids in, or you know, kids' schedules are
Mhm.
very varied.
Yeah.
That's a terrible way to say that, but like, so that's inconsistent.
Mhm.
So really, the most consistent data point
Mhm.
from a digital perspective historically has been giving,
True.
which I think we've built a lot of things around that simply because of the availability of it.
Yeah. I mean, what else to your point, with adults, we don't check into Sunday school classes anymore.
Yeah,
Not everyone scans the QR code unless they're a first-time visitor, unless there's a reason to do that. So
sure,
it's hard to track adult behavior other than monetary, but those
sure.
things still tell a story.
They do tell a story, and any opportunity we get is that much more important
Sure.
because they're rare, right?
Mhm.
If for you to fill out a card in the back of a seat
Mhm.
or to scan a QR code and engage in that way, that's a significant step. And we have to pastor like that's a significant step.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good point. I think we assume on the church side, "Oh, just fill out this card," as if it's so mundane, but that is I don't wanna overemphasize, like, the action of filling out a card, but for
Yeah,
someone to scan something, there's a really good chance that they attended your church, probably online, through Reels, through Instagram, through YouTube, maybe for 6 months to a year before they ever physically stepped foot in
sure.
your building. So
Yes.
there's all this engagement that happened long before they actually sat down in your auditorium. So by that point, you might have a lot of data about them before they ever even physically stepped in,
You could.
if you were even thinking about trying to capture that data, right?
Ding.
Like,
Yeah.
that might be a whole nother episode. I don't know.
No, 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 because our data does show 6 months to a year before you ever walk in the door, but yet we're still pastoring people like
They just
walking
walked
in
off
the
the street.
door
Yeah.
is the very first time they've ever heard about you.
When is the last time you went to a restaurant before looking up the menu?
Oh, never.
Or like,
Yeah.
honestly, I want to see photos.
Yeah.
Photos tell
Are you a
stories.
food
I
photo
am. Yeah.
Yelp or Google?
I'm less Yelpy a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know why, but I also
Okay.
have some really weird food stuff. I'm plant-based. My daughter's gluten-free, so I like to see the pictures. That
How do you tell that from
I
a
don't
picture?
know.
That is
I don't know.
total crap.
But I mean, you're not wrong. But if you take the time to have great food photography or your environment of your restaurant, that
Sure.
tells me so
Yes.
much
Yes.
about the
Sure.
intentionality of the experience that I'm going to have.
Yeah.
How much care you have about your establishment, the aesthetics, what you want. If I'm the owner, the chef,
Yeah.
even just photos online tell me, the consumer, how much you care about my experience once I finally get there. Why is church any different?
Well, it shouldn't be.
Right.
And I think one of the things we're learning in what our day to day looks like is that when you when you digitize felt needs,
Mm, mm,
people begin to engage and connect with your church before they ever walk in the door.
yeah.
And so walking in the door is actually becoming a symbol of an engaged person.
Correct.
It's not the representation of a seeker, to use like 90s
Yeah.
church terminology.
No, that's good. Haven't heard that one in a minute,
I,
but
you're welcome.
I'm gonna take that home with me today. Even like engaged versus maybe like committed.
Sure. Yeah.
By the
Yeah.
time I am willing to, I shouldn't say willing, but by the time I am maybe able, my schedule allows, like, I mean, let's be really honest. This is not, I grew up a 90s kid.
Sure.
We often were not allowed to do sports if they were on Sundays
Yes.
because Sunday's church day. That's not necessarily true as much today. I don't at all want to say that that's not still very, very important. And if that's a family choice, absolutely. But
Yeah.
most of the world, my daughter's a gymnast. We travel. I may physically not be at home on a weekend.
Yeah.
So for me to engage digitally, by the time I can go to a physical church consistently, now I'm not just engaged, I'm committed.
Sure.
I'm kind of all in. I'm probably willing to tithe or do above and beyond. I want to serve. I want to get connected to a group.
Yeah.
So I kind of like scoped you out, and then I was engaged. If my butt's in the seat, now I'm actually committed. That's kind of a whole journey that starts long before I walked in the door.
No, absolutely. And as a parent, I want my kids to be committed to
Yeah.
the expression of the local church,
Mhm.
right? Like I want them to grow up in the midst of that community.
Sure.
But I also live in a world where my kids play sports,
Mhm.
and it is flexible schedules, and they can connect with community in every different way possible.
Yeah.
And so I also don't want to raise them up in a place where they feel like the local church is the only community that they have, that they have to be face to face with someone.
Yeah. And then it only happens in these
Because
few
that
little
doesn't
hours.
mimic the world that they live in,
Correct. Right.
right?
Right.
Like I left the house today. My kids are home for summer, right?
Already?
Already.
Ugh, wow.
I don't know if that's or it's like a
Well, it's both. It's
Yeah.
absolutely both.
yeah. Bless it. They're yelling at each other, playing Fortnite with your
Yeah.
friends
Of course.
already. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm like,
Oof.
for the love, I need you to get outside.
You
But,
have some
like,
screen breaks.
yeah.
Set
But
some
still,
timers.
It's early in the summer. I'm being a bad parent,
That's fine.
but that's how they experience community.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying we should Fortnite our church, but
Yeah.
like, we
But make
do
it
need
accessible.
digital, and we can't discount digital as that's not community.
Correct. Because that's what is built into almost every other way that we live our lives
Mhm.
through business. I work from home.
Yeah.
I lead teams of people. I'm on teams of people only through my laptop,
Yeah.
through group meetings, through team meetings. I mean, that's how we do it. So to expect that I could only be a good employee or a good manager is in person. We don't live in that world anymore.
Yeah.
We,
You're
we,
right.
we can't. So we have to at least adjust to
So
accommodate.
great church management system, clean data,
Mm,
allows you to know people.
right.
What are the things that pastors get wrong when they choose church management systems?
Ugh. When they choose them or when they choose to stick with what they've had for 1,000 years. Gosh, that could go in so many different directions. Um, Technology, I think sometimes you just get stuck
Mm-hmm.
and you think one of two very different things,
Okay.
right? So I don't want to kind of like contradict myself, but you can either have something that is so broken, it's maybe outgrown you or you've outgrown it. You never really learned it appropriately and it's really not meeting your needs, but you're like, whatever.
Okay.
Because there is probably in most churches a volunteer
Sure.
or a long time staff member who has been
It's
the
their
primary.
baby, yeah.
It is, yes. Gladys does not want to give up whatever it is that you've got.
Sure.
So the fear of change is a really big one because of user adoption, fear of giving decline.
Oh, yeah.
Often,
Yeah.
often that's the biggest change is if we change systems,
Mm,
we're going to lose our givers. Go. Tell me more about that.
yeah.
Well, we are so dependent on our giving, as you should be.
Sure.
And it's through our digital systems. It's through giving, which is integrated with our CHMS. And if we change systems, giving will decline. Let's say, can I statistically and lovingly disagree with you? If done well, right? Let's acknowledge maybe your systems, you've outgrown it. You're going to make the switch.
Yeah.
You pick something new. You're going to have to tell everybody about it, right? You should, and not just once and not just twice, but in every way that you have available,
Multiple times.
from the stage, from email, from text, maybe
Yeah.
even a call campaign. Honestly, this is a phased system. You're going to tell your entire congregation why you've made a choice. Would you, let me pause there. Would you tell your congregation openly if you were going to move buildings? Hey, we got a great new building.
Whoa.
We're moving a mile away. Just a mile. But here's why. It's bigger. It's better. Our rent went down. We're going to be able to seat more people. The parking lot's more accessible.
Ooh.
We're in a better part of town where there is not a church that can come and like we can serve the community. Would everybody like, that's stinking awesome? When do we go? Why would you not be as transparent? Like, hey, we've made a system change that will allow us to know everyone that walks in our door, be able to track felt needs, be able to be more benevolent, be able to have better safety and security. We'll be able to background screen every single person that's taking care of your kids. All the actual reasons, right?
Sure. Yeah.
That are back end and not a lot of fun, but they help us feel safer. They might save us money. Go, wow, our church is being better stewards of my giving. My point is you're going to communicate that just as much as you say, hey, we're moving buildings.
I've never heard someone communicate that, though.
Never.
And that's an incredibly valid point.
But why do you tell anybody? I tell my kids, hey, we're going here and here's why. And they go, that makes sense. You set expectations.
Yeah.
Again, why would we not do that in our congregations? So we communicate it. Again, not once, twice, but 100 times because in frequency of attendance, right?
Yeah.
And you go, that's great. Why would I not be supportive? And then my giving, though, right? So I'm still worried about that giving. You go, now here's the only thing that we need y'all to do. You're going to get an email or you're going to get, tell them exactly what the expectations are. And when you do that, here's 2 steps. Click this link.
Yeah.
Your blah, blah, blah is going over here. And our team, our staff has already done this. It's so fast and easy. Even like take out your phone. Like I'm doing it right now. Put it on the screen. Make it visual. And name one person that's going to sit there and go, no, like I am not doing that.
But that's what pastors fear.
Correct. But they understood why.
Sure.
And you led by example. Then statistically, like truly studies have shown that when you do that really well, giving increases because so many people in that old system, they set up a recurring schedule. They haven't logged in 5 years.
Yeah.
How many times have they changed jobs or maybe they got a small cost of living increase and they never increase that giving? I'm going to log in and go, ooh, wow, that is outdated. Man, I am kind of behind. I never updated my tithe. So statistically, you've got new givers that sign up for the first time and those that have had it just set and forget forever will increase.
Okay.
You might have some drop off, but the amount you'll gain is so much higher. So
in fairness, and you did some good convincing there, when I encounter someone that's considering changing church management systems, I tell them not to.
Well, I didn't get to the part where I was going to contradict myself.
Okay. All right. All right. Because I was like, you pushed me closer to the edge than I've ever been.
If you're going to make a change, there's ways to do it really, really well.
Of course.
Openly communicate to the entire congregation why you made that choice, how it will be better for them, and the only thing that you're asking them to do in that transition.
Okay.
On the other hand, from the provider side, like this is literally what I do for a living. Say, be a partner with your vendor. And that to me goes across, I don't care if it's church management, if it's who does your electricity, whoever is your service provider, make partnership with them so that you can understand something to the max.
Yeah.
So many times I see people go, oh, this system's not working for us. And I'll log in and be like, you're not using any of the tools that you just told me, hey, we need something that does this, this, this. You've had that for a hot minute and you never learned how to do it. Or you've got, a financial secretary when you really need your media comms person. Who's your events person? Who's doing your social?
Yeah.
None of them are even administrated on this system. So you're not maximizing the tools.
So you shouldn't change.
You need to learn, dive in, actually train, reach out to your vendor, go, what am I missing?
Well, that's like you can't solve people problems with technology.
And I can't
That's the
fix a
thing I say
problem that I don't know is broken.
over and over again.
That's right. Yep.
Like, just stop fixing stupid process problems by changing your technology,
Right.
because your stupid process problem,
They're still going to be on the new system.
it's gonna follow you.
Yeah, exactly. Because you go with it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You're kind of the problem.
Okay. You said it. I didn't say it.
Yeah.
It was right there.
You had to. Yeah. You
Yeah.
might be the problem. And it's not that you can't learn. It's that maybe that wasn't set up appropriately,
Sure.
the proper onboarding, the proper training. You might need to spend a little investment in good training. You might be due for an upgrade. There's so many reasons, but dig in first
Yes.
before you just go, this isn't working. We got to get something new.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of conversations with people that are like, we should change church management systems.
Why?
And yeah, it's like, why?
What is so broken? Can it be fixed first?
You know, the probably the most common thing is our staff hate it,
Fair.
right?
Of course they do.
Oh, yeah, of course they do.
I hate Microsoft Excel, but I have to use it every day.
Sure.
Like,
But it's also up to the person that is the owner of that
mhm.
in whatever church organization,
Yep.
structure you have, to be a champion of it.
Right.
And this is like personal pet peeve, but we bury those people in our org charts
Yes.
so deep that they have no influence.
They're not empowered at all.
And so, like, to have the conversation and go, when's the last time you met with ministry leaders?
Mhm.
And it's like, well,
What do you
I
mean?
don't get to meet with them. It's like, well, how is your
Why?
church management system going to be successful
Right.
if the people that it's empowering ministry for never learn about it?
It's kind of cheesy, but it's in the name. It's church management system.
Oh, I hate that name.
Correct. I agree. But it's managing the entire church.
Yeah.
So why is only one little portion of your staff even like on the system or using it well? If it's to manage the entire church, the entire staff
Yeah.
could and should be kind of working together.
What does the future look like? And I think you and I have vastly different versions of future.
I think I don't know. And I think that there are kind of these divergent paths, right?
Okay.
Based on, I don't want to say size, because size is not necessarily a good determinant of how progressive or technologically savvy a church may or may not be,
Sure.
right? But in general buckets, I feel like some of the more traditional,
Mm-hmm.
small to mid-sized churches are kind of, this is what we've got and this is what we'll always have.
Sure.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit of a
Yeah.
a not futuristic mindset. I think there's a whole different type of church or type of pastor that goes, man, we are not engaging the people in our community.
Mhm.
Something's got to change.
Yeah.
And are willing to maybe blow everything up,
Yeah.
burn the bridge down to meet the need. And that's kind of what you were saying about technology will never solve people problems. I think there will be two paths where church go, well, this is what we've got, and it's the CHMS and it's the database, and let's
All the things.
just all the very traditional standard things versus
Yep.
not that CHMS is even the problem, but it's how you're using that data or what data you're gathering, how you're using that to make sure that people are not falling through the cracks in your community.
Yeah.
Those are different philosophies. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Should they be different philosophies?
No, of course not. Of course not.
No. Whatever tool you use to make unknown people known, to
Correct.
go back to the
All
beginning,
back, yeah.
right? Like, that's what you need. And ever increasing, I see church management systems still based around the physical expression of
I
church.
totally agree with you. Yes.
And as long as that is the case, I think their trajectory and future
Mhm.
continues to diminish.
I agree. And this is kind of where, again, like not just data hygiene, but what data are you putting in?
Sure.
So the system itself, I would argue, isn't necessarily even really the problem. It's kind of to your point, what are you considering step one? Is step one the first time Kacie walked in the door and signed up? If that's the first record of me in your CHMS, that's a you problem. That's not a CHMS problem. that say, were you even thinking, how many times did she watch our podcast? How many times
Ooh,
did she, whatever the things were that happened
yeah.
before that commitment point? If you were tracking that and entered that, so if my people record in your CHMS predates my first human stepping into your building, then I go, man, CHMS, who cares what system you're using? You're tracking me as a person.
Sure.
That's awesome.
Yes. But
But nobody's doing that.
I would
Very
say
few people.
nobody.
Very
I
few
wouldn't say
people are doing
nobody,
that.
because I mean that is the thing. It's pastoring people.
Yeah.
Like, we talk about data and like you said, like, it feels icky and things like that. No, like, we're actually pastoring people,
hmm
and we live in a world today where we have to pastor people before we physically see them.
Correct. Because they see us, but we
Yes.
haven't seen them yet. So, like, how do you, and that's not an easy question to solve for it. I don't have all the
No.
answers, but if we think there are countless people, tens, thousands, I don't know, there are countless numbers of people who are
Sure.
seeing us before we see them, how can we see them? How can we even think about them being more visible and pulling them into relationship, into crisis resolution, into bereavement? I don't know. All these things.
All the
Why would
things.
somebody be watching us?
Yeah.
They're seeking, they're looking for community, they're looking for a church home.
Well, I mean, Jesus said it best. The sick
Mm,
are looking for a doctor.
right. So how do you even think to find them before they come walking into your
They're
hospital?
finding you.
Right.
I'm going to throw like the big church word out, that is, are we stewarding those things well?
No. It's funny you say that. Before I came to church management, you mentioned I worked in
Yeah.
children's healthcare, and that word steward. But my church background, I was like, I know what a steward is.
Yeah.
You steward money. It was a very new, and this is almost embarrassing to admit it, like thinking about stewarding a personal relationship. That took a little bit of a mind shift for me because of how I grew up. We are good stewards of our tithe and offering, right?
Yes.
Our time, talent, and our treasures. But
Yes.
stewarding a person, that's, first of all, just a little bit of a different, and it's not easy.
No.
How do I steward a relationship? Very intentionally, with a lot of work, with a
Yes.
lot of planning. But my dad, it made me so mad, and now I catch myself saying it. I hate it. He would always say, what is a kid when they do something wrong? They say, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. He would always say, well, you didn't mean not to. And I freaking hated that.
That is gangster.
I hated it so bad. But now I see that so much in business, in church management, in human stewardship. Well,
Oh,
they fell through the cracks. Well, gosh, we didn't mean to lose them. Well, you didn't mean not to.
wow.
You didn't have a person record until they walked into the door. Well, we didn't mean not to capture them before. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
stinking Pastor Dave was wise in his years, but we didn't mean
Wow.
not to. So thinking like way differently, thinking before that first point, before the giving declines, before the attendance declines, before they even show up, even thinking, well, how could we track that?
Yeah.
I don't know, but just asking the question is a great place to start.
I mean, that is a bomb right there.
I'm not going to tell him. It'll just like way too ego.
It's okay.
He's a pastor. We know these. We got to keep these guys humble.
Listen, I don't know what you mean by that.
Of course you wouldn't.
I don't know. What a jerk. I I think I really do think, Casey, that wraps up thought. Like, as we look at church management, we're really looking at the flow of people,
Mhm.
and digital plays. It is the new front door.
Absolutely.
It is the new place where we meet people,
Mhm.
and we have to be willing to meet them there.
Where they are,
It is where they are.
right?
And for the next generation that's coming, your kids are the same age as my kids. It's like they live in digital
They don't have
communities.
textbooks at all.
No,
Everything is just online.
everything.
And we're about the little eyeballs. Like, you need blue blockers. Like we literally live on screens. So for the millionth time, why should the church be any different?
It shouldn't.
We don't have to be against, back to scripture, not in the world, but of it. But we do need to meet the people that are trying to find us where they are
And that's what we try and do every day,
every day.
isn't it?
Every day.
We get the opportunity to do that and help churches succeed
Mm.
in that mission.
Yeah. Well, if our churches aren't doing it, somebody else will.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, media, social, e-commerce, like everybody else is doing this really, really well. They understand there's 7 days and it's 24/7. There is not a Sunday morning, 9 to 11 a.m.
You said it best. At Apollos, we say 7 days, not just Sundays.
It's not.
What a great place to end. Kacie, thank you so much
Of course.
for
Thank
hanging out
you.
with us
My
today.
pleasure.
If you want to connect with Kacie further, we'll pull all of her details in the description. She is a powerhouse of knowledge in the church space. And so I encourage you to reach out to her and get connected to what she's doing. Thank you, guys.